So whenever you just require to ensure that I can share.
I'll just make you the presenter, and you can I'll make you the host only, so
Okay.
that.
Then I can share the screen, is it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
There you are. You can start sharing now.
Okay. I'll just check if I can share the screen now.
Sure,
Okay.
sure. Yeah. Yeah, perfect.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Manjunath, waiting for your lecture.
Hi guys.
Hi. Hi, Vinay. Hi, Kiran.
Hi, Manjunath.
Hi. Hi.
Hey Siddharth.
Hi. Hi, Siddharth.
Hey, Kiran. I see you're giving us a show of the aurora as well. Okay.
Yeah, I think next Saturday is Raminder, and the following Saturday is my turn.
No, your screen background, I'm saying.
Yeah, that's Northern Lights. I wish I could go and shoot those.
That's on everyone's bucket list.
Yeah.
Hi, Raghu. Hi.
Hello, Manjunath. All well?
Alhamdulillah.
Hey, even Dhananjay Saiba is there. Not bad. Dhananjay?
Yes, very much here. Let me unmute my video also, I guess.
Our news travels far and wide.
Yes. Well, I've been part of this nature group for a while.
Huh?
I've been part of that nature group, the photography group, for quite a while.
But,
These guys are the ones who post events every single day. Madhu and Shanawaz and you know.
So, Raghu, I shared the link there in that IITV Nature group.
yeah, that is a different group. I'm not there.
Good evening, Dhananjay. This is Manjunath here.
Yeah, hi Manjunath. Good to see you guys.
We've been using your BJ extensively for each and every of our.
Good. Delighted.
Hey, Pradeep, can you mute? Pradeep Joshi, can you please mute?
Manjunath, approximately how long are you going to likely to take today?
This is going to be a very short one.
As
No
short as
hyphen.
Raghu's.
Oh, no. Much shorter. So you'll be back here at your dining table very soon.
Yeah, Manjunath. So guys were saying, some folks wrote to me that if it's going beyond 8:30, they want a bio break at 8:30.
No demonstrations or anything, so nothing much on it. Yours went long because it was an extensive subject, introducing a camera and photography both.
Yeah, to some extent, I would say that maybe I should have split it into two, but then somehow I didn't anticipate.
No, not necessarily. I feel the way you did it was better,
Okay.
because it's a linked subject. You can't describe the machine one time and another time you pick up a few. By then I've forgotten what you
Correct.
said earlier.
Yeah. I wanted to approach it from the point of view of saying that these are the desired effects that you want. This is how you want to take. And then what are the controls to get there?
Like today's subject is basically one element, of yours.
Yeah,
Just
but
glass. You
Yeah.
had glass, you had electronics, you had a lot of other things, Shutter, light. Mine is just
No,
like
it's
wearing
me.
this.
Hi, welcome to all. So Tarun, you're recording.
Yes, Raghu.
Just check that it is on.
Yeah, it's on. It's on.
Okay. So I think we have 31 participants and it's time to get started. So request everybody to be muted. And of course, if you have questions to ask, you can interrupt, but make it short and try to keep it for the end. And if it goes beyond 8:30, we have sought a bio break. So we'll try and get a bio break in if it's longer. Otherwise, Manjunath, it's over to you. It's a continuation from the last session where there was an introduction. This is a more interesting topic on what filters can do for you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Today's subject is fairly simple. I'm just covering the lens filters today. Now, what is a lens filter and why do we use it? That's where it starts, Like, what's a lens filter? We have a lens and the camera is self-sufficient to do a lot of things. But the way I look at it is, even if you're not into doing something hi-fi, special effects, a lens is one of the most expensive part of your camera. It's coated and you need to protect it. That's the first thing. So they protect your lenses. They can correct or enhance the colors. They can also help ensure accurate exposure and they add a wow factor to your images. Now going back, what exactly do I mean by they protect your lens? As I said earlier, the lens is very expensive. It is coated. So if you go around with your camera without a simple clear filter, when you try to clean your lens, you end up scratching the lens surface. I've seen a lot of people going around with expensive cameras and then not installing a lens filter, which is possibly even less than 1% or 0.5% of the cost of the gear that they're carrying. So those of you all who are currently going on without lens filters, please ensure that you buy a filter. Now, which one? We'll come to that later on. Now, the other reason for using a lens filter is there are some filters which can enhance the color or the contrast. Those of you who have started your tryst with photography in the black and white era, particularly I would say the 120 film and the box camera, might be remembering that when we used to click photos at particular times of the day, we used to either use a green filter or a orange filter or like a green or a yellow filter, you know. There are also filters which, when the lighting condition is difficult, they will assist you by shutting off some light or reducing the light. Then there are filters which can make your image very lively, either because it's again a lens in a way, or it has minute scratches on it, but designed scratches. When I say that, I'm referring to the star filter. Now, how many types of filters are there? So now first let me look at the forms. By forms, I mean shapes. So you've got a screw-on filter. Now when you look at your camera, your lens is circular. So the most simple one would be having a screw-on filter which fits in, like our UV filter or skylight filter. There are other types of filters also, like polarizers, which are screw-on. Then there are drop-in filters. These are larger and it drops into a slotted element which is fixed onto the lens. These can be square or these can be rectangular. Now these are as far as shapes are concerned. I hope till now everything is clear and you all can hear me loud and clear.
You would go into ND filter later?
Yes, what I described now were forms, not the quality or the type, okay, just the shapes. Now I will come down to types. So you have first is the UV and the skylight filter. As I said earlier, that's there to protect the front element of the lens against moisture, scratches, etc. So many a times it has happened with me that when I'm clicking a photograph in the desert, I'll have sand coming in, I'll have humidity which sits on the filter. Now, if there was no filter, I would have ended up damaging my lens. So this is skylight UV is good for all type of photography. They improve the tones also. Polarizing filter. Now the light that we see at certain times of the day and when it hits water or bounces off water, the way it appears in our photograph once we look at it is different because it's polarized light. So if you use a polarizing filter, it's just like as the polarizer sunshade does, you know. When you wear it while you're driving, when it's very sunny, you get very clear images. Though a standard polarizer sunglass might also be tinted, these ones are not tinted. These are just clear. See, for example, now this is without the polarizer. This is with the polarizer. without with. However, it's not as simple as that. When you have a polarizer installed, you require to look through the viewfinder and rotate the ring till you see the sky is dark or the colors pop up, or eliminate the glare and reduce the reflection. Okay, so when photographing landscapes, these are of very good use. Then the ND filter that
Sir,
you were asking about.
Manjunath, sorry, just quick question.
Yeah.
Are you also going to talk about this? Like I keep seeing something called radial polarizing filter or circular polarizing filter, I think, which claims that you don't need to rotate the filter. I've not used one of those, but are you going to talk about that? The circular polarizers?
I don't know much about it, to be honest, so I would not be qualified enough to talk about it.
Okay.
But
Now, the only
surely
reason I
I
asked,
will
yeah,
investigate
yeah,
it further.
yeah.
I'll investigate it further and I'll share in the group.
Okay,
Is that
thanks.
okay?
I'll send you a message offline. Thanks.
So Manjunath, sorry to interrupt, but I have used circular polarizers, and also they need to be rotated. So
That's my experience too. That's my experience too. However, as this was raised, let me investigate still further if there is some type of filter which does not require to be rotated. But understanding how a filter works, I don't think there might be a filter which is universal, because the polarized light which comes at different angles. So the level of polarization, is different.
Yeah, but my understanding of what polarized is, right? I cannot imagine why you would not need to rotate, which is why I was surprised when, but I'm reading this on a website. That's why.
Okay. Okay.
So let me chime in. I
Yeah.
have also used polarizers extensively, but I have never understood why there have to be two different types. All of them, ultimately, light comes in different. When Manjunath says angles, I think we should understand that it's a light wave.
Yeah.
Travels in a certain plane, and it comes in multiple planes. It effectively reduces the sharpness in a way. So you want to eliminate light from other planes and allow light only from the major source of reflection or major light element that you want. So circular polarizers, you rotate to eliminate all the rest that you don't want, and you can make out that you're eliminating. Yeah, continue.
Thank you, Raghu. Okay. Then we come to ND filters. These are fairly popular. I think there's a lot of talk going on about ND filters. It's basically a neutral density filter, that's ND. They are dark glasses, different thicknesses, different possibly shades of gray, and it reduces the amount of light that enters, so you can get more shutter, like your shutter speed, you can increase your shutter speed mainly when you want to show flow. This is a example of using the ND filter, what you can get in. These are not my images, so let me be very clear. The images I have used here are from some other site where explanations were given nicely. So what happens is you reduce the intensity of the coming light. So you have slower shutter speed, however, without exposing your image. So this is useful for landscape photography, flash, street, and moving items like rivers, waterfalls, etc. I have still not been able to afford one.
But thanks. It was very clear, the explanation.
Thank you. Then, when I said ND and what I showed earlier, that means that the color density or the tint density was the same throughout. The next level is a graduated ND. That means the tint varies from top to bottom or bottom to top based on how you install it into that holder. You might recollect about maybe 20 years ago or thereabouts, a lot of our sunglasses used to come with gradations rather than a straight tint down. Like lower part used to be fairly lighter, but as you go up the lens, it used to be darker. Carrera and all of these people used to have that model, and it was fairly popular with the people from the D gang. So these are type of filters which are used when within the frame that you've composed, the variation of light is like you got a very bright sky. However, the foreground isn't that bright. There's light, but it's not that bright. So you can use that in a way that you can control what you want to darken. You got within that again 3 types: the soft edged, hard edged, and reverse. It's all to do with how the gradation or how the transition is there. The hard edge is where half of it is clear and the center is clear, etc. Again, landscape photography and shooting during golden hours just after sunrise or before sunset. Then you got the color correcting filters. These ones too, I have not seen anyone use these days. They were being used when films were being used, film cameras, and particularly black and white. When film cameras were being used, people used to use the lighting more. But if you didn't have the lighting, go in with a color correcting filter. So this is something like, I would say, use of a gelatin paper on a focus light on a stage. Something akin to that. You bring in certain hues to bring out an effect, a feeling, an emotion. See, the same photo, but with filter and without filter. 2 different types of filters.
So blue will be towards one emotion and reddish or yellowish will be towards another emotion.
Yeah. Now these days, after we've gone into digital photography and we control, because we do our own processing, a lot of things have changed. Okay. Then close-up filters. When I bought my first camera, that was way back in '84. Before that, I used to just use others' cameras. I had heard a lot about close-up filters, and I had a Minolta X700 with a f1.4 lens. And I was just about to be, sold or marketed into buying a close-up filter. So I didn't buy those days. I checked it out with a friend who had one. And then I realized that it was nothing but, again, a type of lens, which was a magnifier. So rather than buying different close-up lenses with different ones, I prefer to wait for a while, save some money, and go in for a telezoom with macro. However, there's a difference, like if I had used these, I could still use my main lens, which was f1.4, which was very sharp and could perform into low light. However, the zoom wasn't so great. My zoom must have been 3.5 upwards, but did well for what I was using it for. Then you got a special effects filter. Earlier days, again, coming back to comparisons between film camera and digital sensor camera. Starbursts were always clicked with a star filter. And star filter was a very neat piece of glass, high quality, thin, on which there were scratches, like designed scratches, I will say, So whenever a point source of light comes across it, it would burst. However, now this is rarely used. Like when we do star bursts in our images, we go with a very small aperture and increase the timing. A lot of tricks are there, And then what you see is actually the number of petals of your lens. So you don't get a feature like this, slightly different, 8 or 9 or 6, depending on the lens that you have.
Excuse me.
Now, this is a overview of where we are. How many types of filters? So UV and skylight, it protects the lenses, shields and old photography from UV, all photography from UV rays, all types. Polarizing reduces reflection and glare, enhances the color and contrast, all type of photography, all genres. ND reduces the amount of light entering the lens, allows the use of slower shutter speed and wider apertures, and create a motion blur. Raghu had explained to us last week the exposure triangle. So a photo is a game between ISO, then F number, that's the aperture, and the shutter speed. So this allows you a greater tolerance, landscape and flash. Hard-edged graduated filter reduces the amount of light through the top half of the lens, sharp transition between dark and clear, balances the exposure between bright midday skies and dark foreground, mainly for landscape. Soft edge reduces the amount of light entering the lens through, again, same, but a smoother transition, balance. So the difference is a sharp transition and a smoother transition. The name says it all, soft edge, hard edge. Again, landscape. Reverse graduated reduces the amount of light entering the lens, provides a smoother transition, and properly exposes the sun. Landscape photography. Then colored, basically change of color. So everything. Close up allows closer focusing on the subjects, helps capture sharp close-ups for macro. Special effects, multi-point light sparkles, softening, or multiple copies. There are different types of filters, okay? It's not the same filter.
Excuse me, what is starburst?
Yeah, a star, you might have seen some images. I'll just go back and show you, like this one. A sharp single point of light is there. And then it has these, light bursting, breaking out of it. Normally, if this was done in a regular fashion, then you would have to do various things to get it right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll share some starburst photos of mine later on in the group. Okay. So in short, filters are a small element in your kit, but they help you a lot. So this was a short presentation on this.
Mr.
topic.
Pai, I just want to ask you one question.
Yes.
This is regarding the basic kind of filters. Does one need to use them for cameras which are not SLR cameras? One can use them for autofocus cameras also?
Unfortunately, I've not seen filters being made available for those type of cameras.
Mm-hmm. So how does one protect the lens over there from scratching and so on and so forth?
It's a good question. Just praying hard to God and not being in situations which are tricky. I use a Coolpix,
Mm-hmm.
which is also one of these, non-DSLR camera. And I've got it damaged in the desert once when there was sand flowing by. And it was so silly of me. The DSLR that I was carrying, the lens kit was, I think it was 18200. I could have processed a photo from that, cropping it, etc. But it was the devil which got into me. And I ended up using up this Coolpix, saying that, okay, it gave me a zoom of up to, I think, 720. And everything went on fine till a small breeze came in and my zoom got jammed. So it's just a piece of toy now. So in those cases, like Nikon has a camera which they call in Coolpix AW series.
Mm-hmm.
AW, I think 300.
Mm-hmm.
It's a excellent camera. It's underwater, maybe 30 meters depth you can go. It can take about a couple of meters fall. It's a 2.8 lens. However, it's only like a 2870 lens, if I'm not wrong, or maybe 2810. But for adventure loving people, it's well worth it. If you're going on a trek, etc., I would recommend investing that rather than carrying a couple of kilos camera. This is hardly maybe less than 300 grams.
Yeah, they are quite light. They're
Yeah.
quite light.
Yeah.
Yeah, but say you have any kind of recommendations when you go in extreme weather, like you are in a very cold area, or you are in a kind of very highly with a lot of humidity or sand or something. Any specific recommendations if somebody is carrying these kind of cameras?
Like DSLRs or?
No, non-DSLRs.
Okay. One thing is when it is humid, you have to be very careful. You can't do much other than with a very soft tissue, cleaning the lens. Firstly, whichever kit you have, once you go home, brush it off, blow it off. That's the first thing. And when you are towards like water areas, like you are by the sea, splashing water or raining, what I do is I just take off the camera, I click my photo, immediately keep it in. Don't hold it in the hand waiting to compose a photo. Like, have very clear ideas what you want, and just pull it out, look, shoot. If you can't compose it in situ, then cropping. That's the only way you have, rather than a 20,000 camera going down the drain.
I understand.
That Zoom, you said, which got spoiled. There's nobody, there's no servicing or nobody to service who can service it.
No, Nikon doesn't recommend that. I went to Nikon itself. So they just say you have to change the lens kit,
Okay.
because once the dust goes in, the grain goes in, it starts scratching and damaging things inside.
Okay. Okay.
So one has to be
Manjunath,
very careful.
this is Nitin. So I had a quick question about different brands of this filters. So like the top end brands might be like, maybe 5 times the cost of a general brand. So does it really make a difference? Say if I want to buy ND filter 10 stop, when I see the prices.
Okay. When you look at filters, ND filters are very expensive, very expensive. I've not purchased one because whenever I think of buying and I see the price, I just walk back and I say, this is not going to give me any income, but how much should I spend on passion? I would rather spend that on the camera body and the lens.
Manjunath, can I jump in here at this moment?
Sure.
Right. I want to share a photo and I'll take screen from you and let me share my screen for a minute.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
Tarun, can you allow me to share screen?
Manju, can you make Raghu or give him the rights? I've made Manju the host. Just right click on Raghu's name and allow him to share.
Okay.
Manjunath, before you do that, can you bring up your slide on ND filter?
Yeah. Just a moment.
Just bring up your slide on ND filter.
Yeah.
One which is graded one.
This one?
How about the next one? Just click on that. Yeah.
No, okay. One?
Yeah. No, just
this one?
Yeah, so no, that one only. Keep that, the one that you had before. Yeah, correct. Okay, so on this filter, folks, you will see a holder and then you see sheets of glass. And the sheets of glass are not uniform. If you pick any glass, one end is darker and the other end is lighter. And that holder is screwed in front of the lens and you slide this piece of glass through this holder up or down. Now, while Manju says that it's too expensive, I would say, yeah, it's a little expensive, but they are real value for money. Okay, so I'll show you, and the way you use them is important. The way you use them can really save your day. And sometimes you have to be prepared mentally as to when you want to use them, because you can never get those situations back. Nowadays, the alternative to using this, because we are in the digital world, the alternative is to take multiple exposures. As somebody said, there are ND filters that do 9-stop. Now 9-stop is really extreme, but you can do multiple exposures, let's say 5 or 6 stops, or maybe you do 9-stop exposures, meaning ±4 or either end of where you meter right now. You say, I will underexpose from -4, -3, -2, -1, so-called correct exposure, and then take other exposure on the positive side, +1 to +4, and you take 9 exposures, right? Then you go back to your digital darkroom, and then you sandwich these 9 together and choose which one you want where. And you may wonder, what is this Raghu talking about? So you might have heard of this term called HDR, high dynamic range, right? Now, HDR is a technique with which even modern cell phone cameras do this. They apply AI algorithms. They take multiple shots at least 5 or 6, and then choose on their own which ones from which picture they must merge to create the composite picture that you are finally shown. Because you obviously wanted the bright and the dark regions to show the detail that you want to see. And then you cannot capture that with one exposure, because you will see now. Okay, so now Manju, share your, allow me to take this.
Yeah. I'll just stop sharing and I'll.
Yeah.
So I'll make host. That makes it easier, isn't it?
Okay. Okay, looks like I am made the host right now. Yeah, it allows me to share the screen. Okay. So can folks see my desktop?
White desktop. White desktop.
Not yet.
Not yet.
It's all blank white screen.
Okay, one sec. Yeah, so I'm sorry. So maybe, why is that? It's not showing me the ability to share my desktop. How do I share my desktop?
Do you have multiple screens on you? Or do you have multiple monitors right now?
No, I have one monitor, and
Okay.
it is not allowing me to share my desktop. It is allowing me to share individual apps. And that's what is making this. Okay, so give me a minute. Let me arrange my thing just that I can show you to you one app. Okay. Okay, I was hoping to show you comparatively, but now I cannot show you comparatively, so I'll flip around and then we will see. Okay. Okay. So let me share again. I'm sorry, I lost this. Okay, can you see my screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So I have three pictures. I have three pictures, all taken at the same place and about the same time, plus minus few minutes here and there. So this is picture 1. And in this picture, you will see that you can get some detail of the cloud, but you don't get sufficient detail about what is there in the front, right? It's kind of dark. So if you change exposure, this is what you get, right? Nice bright frontage. You can see the waterfall, you can see the hill slopes, but the cloud is gone, right? And this is where you now bring in that graded ND filter. Now with that graded ND filter, what you do is you position it such that the darker portion is on top, the lighter portion is at the bottom. And of course, you don't carry just one graded ND filter. You typically carry about 3 or 4 where they are soft, meaning the gradation is soft. They are hard, where they are literally like a sharp line. One side is very dark, the other side is very light. So very light meaning there's no light cut out from that portion. So now the next picture that you'll see is shot with the graded ND filter. This is the graded ND filter. So you can see the foreground is identically lit, right? No change in the foreground. But now, instead of the sky being completely without any clouds, and you can see this is how it was, and now I'll go back to the one with the ND filter. You can see it's almost similar, right?
Wow, wow, very good.
You get the difference? I would not have got this picture without the graded ND filter in my hand. Now there are other times where you will want the graded ND filter, and that is when you're on a beach and you're photographing the sky and the sun setting, and you want people in the beach also to be visible, and you want both the sky and the beach, right? So then what you do is again do the same. The sky is actually giving you extraordinary light, but the beach is dark. So then you position the graded ND filter with the dark portion on top and do that. But one of the challenges in using graded ND filters is the following, that you have to use the way you meter becomes a little more complicated. So first you meter without the what shall I say, filter. You meter the sky and you meter the foreground. You make sure that the difference in f-stops, you have the corresponding filter for that. I mean, it might be 3, 4, or 5, and you might have to make a choice between the hard and the soft. And you meter the, as I said, you meter the sky and the meter the foreground. The light portion is the one that you will choose as your, what shall I say, the setting that you are going to meter with. And then you put the filter, and then you adjust the line where the gradation is sharp or where you feel across the matching the scenery in the picture that you're taking. So to do that, you have to stop down, meaning you have to use the depth of field preview lever and close the aperture and then move the filter up and down. Otherwise, you will not be able to see the change in the gradation. You can see the change in the gradation only when you press the DOF button, and then you can move the filter up and down, position the line in the holder. So you remember the holder that was seen in which the glass can move up and down. So you position the filter such that the line cuts around the place where the change in intensity is taking place, and then you shoot. So you would position the line right at the horizon in the case of a sunset shot and so on. Now, in this case, it's a mountain. Yeah, there is no straight line. So I used not a hard one. I used a soft one and then approximately positioned it and then took it. So that's how you use a graded ND filter, and that's where you use a graded ND filter. Very useful. But shooting is not straightforward. But again, you know, sometimes you just need it. Otherwise, you won't get the picture that you want.
Raghu, I had a question. With algorithms and in DSLRs, haven't they come up with a virtual ND filter which will do this for you through the?
Yeah. So instead of a virtual ND filter, what should be done, and that's what most cameras now offer. They shoot 9, 10 exposures at different exposure levels, and then I don't like to hand over control to some other guy's algorithm. I would rather take all the 9 shots, then move to Adobe Lightroom or Adobe Photoshop, and then choose. I stack all 9 one behind the other and say which areas I want which one, right? Now, algorithms certainly do it even on an iPhone, right? There is an HDR mode in your iPhone. And if you see that HDR mode, it actually works quite well most of the time. But there will be situations where you will find that the algorithm doesn't do what you want.
I actually meant, could you have a graded ISO through the top to bottom, for example?
Oh, you may not want that because
okay.
The graded ISO has noise problems, right?
I see.
Yeah. Oh, absolute black is very hard to generate. So graded ISO is not a good idea.
Okay.
I tend to use the filter in Lightroom to do this, you know, basically underexposing it a bit and then process it, because I click in RAW and then process it.
Yeah, that's the other way to do it.
Can a polarizing filter be used for this if you don't have a ND filter?
Polarizing filter will not work here. it is exposure level. And then while I have the screen share, I will show you where a polarizing filter really helps. There are, I have one example in front of me, and I'll show you that. Let me screen share again. One sec. Do you see these two pictures?
Yes.
And unfortunately, it's labeled already, but you can see that the one on the left is without polarizer and the one on the right is with polarizer. What's the difference?
Contrast.
The glare of the rocks.
So the contrast is better, right?
Yes.
With the polarizer.
Hmm.
What it has done is it has eliminated the light reflecting off the water on the rocks, because that light is coming with a different plane. You know, that light is, it's a light wave. It's coming in a different plane and it has eliminated that. So you get to see the real rock.
Yeah.
Otherwise, on the left, you don't see the real rock. This is where polarizers are useful. And you will see that everywhere in the picture. Only the waterfall is white. Everywhere else, the white is gone. It's not that the polarizer has taken out the white, by the way. The polarizer has taken out the light reflecting in other planes. And similarly, when you're taking forest photography, leaves reflect light and you tend to get very dull tree pictures because leaves reflect light in all kinds of directions. So when you're taking fall color pictures, using a polarizer is really helpful. But polarizers come with a unfortunate, what shall we say, cost. The cost is you lose 2 stops of light. You lose 2 f-stops of light. So using a polarizer means you need slower shutter speed or higher ISO and so on. So polarizer makes you drops 2 stops of light.
So Raghu, I was actually going to ask you this, that, that polarizer, actually, I would say it allows you to stop slower exposure. So in this, the one which you are sharing.
In this scenario, yes. In this scenario, you want slower.
Exactly. And it is looking far better. The movement blur is far better on the one on which the polarizer is used.
Yes. But there are times where polarizer you want, but again, it comes.
Yeah.
Forest picture is correct, is an example, I will say.
Yeah, true.
Because you are already in low light in forests.
Yeah, yeah.
Raghu, do you have an example of the forest picture to further kind of define this thing?
I tried looking for it immediately, but I could not get it. Okay. So if Manjunath takes over, I can take over some more time and look for it, or I'll share it the next time.
No problem.
Raghu, a question.
Yeah.
Since Adobe Photoshop is so important, when I bought my laptop, Adobe Photoshop came with it, but somewhere along the way, its license expired and I could not renew it. Is there any other software like Adobe Photoshop, or we have to buy the subscription now?
I think there are things like GIMP, which I have not used. I also don't use Photoshop.
GIMP. So I have used GIMP. It's open source software, and but I have never used Adobe Photoshop or Lightroom to compare really. And I don't know processing. But using GIMP, it's worth trying. It's open source, so you will not, you'll have to figure out a lot of things. People do say that it's a good
Kalyankar, can you mute if you're not speaking? Yeah, so.
Yeah, okay, Raghu, that answers my question. I kind of understand. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Manjunath, you want to take over?
I'm done. It's just questions, My
we
presentation
can-
is basically done. So the floor is open for any questions or.
Raghu, while you still have the control and you're the host, Amit Chase has shared a photograph with some comment. If you could just look into the chat, please.
Okay, just give me a second. Let me look at the chat. Where is that now? Okay. Tough one. Okay, so what's the question?
There's a comment.
This is an HDR image composed in software.
Could you share the image, Raghu?
Oh, sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Just give me a second. Yeah, can you see the image?
Yes, yes, I can see.
Yeah, so he's saying here's an example of something I took 2 years ago. This is an HDR image composed in software. I used my DSLR to use exposure bracketing, 3 pictures of 3 different exposures. This picture is challenging because the sun was very close to the sun and behind it. Yeah, so I would actually say this, you need possibly more plus minus exposure range because the face is still dark. And yes, this is an example where HDR is really useful and no filter can save you, literally. The ND filter will have a line and it will not, correct just the face or just this randomly shaped image, right? So you do need multiple exposures to be taken. And in this case, the contrast is too much. So you cannot, and HDR is the only solution, and modern DSLRs do HDR on the fly, or you take 6-7 exposures of different exposure values, go back home and then choose to merge it in software.
So Raghu, a follow-up question.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like these filters are available from different, top of the line or just run-of-the-mill brands. So, is there a big difference between the quality when we actually take photographs?
So one of the things I will say this is any glass element that you put affects the light going in. Now, a coated glass ensures that there are no flares. You understand what I mean by flares? Flares are, ghost spots that come up in your picture because there are internal reflections and so on. So if you want to avoid flares, you need a good piece of glass which is coated well and so on. So I would only say this, that you run a risk with poorer brands that you may have flares. Other than flares, I cannot think of any other reason why I would, flares are the big reason that I'll say I will go for a better brand.
All right. Yeah, thanks.
And filters, I mean, I do not know what's the price range that people would consider expensive. I got neutral density, graded neutral density Stingray filters. I got them, I think $100 a piece, and I got 3 of them.
So Raghu, why sorry, go ahead.
No, in the larger scheme of things, it is not too expensive. So
yeah, because $300, one can buy a small point and shoot or a digital low-end DSLR for $100. or you can buy a good lens for $300. But yeah, the Stingray ND filters, new graded ND filters are really good.
I think maybe
Okay.
one way to think about it, right, especially depending on where you're going. So if you're on a, like if you're shelling out, say, $10,000 for a once in a lifetime trip, right, then compare it to that cost also, you know.
Yes, absolutely. You're not going back there again very soon.
So Raghu, while we are on this subject, the quality of glass. So, and Manjunath, I want to get your thoughts also. So there's a counter argument that using a UV filter as a protection for lens, actually you are introducing a cheap glass in front of the lens, and anyway, the front element of any lens is the most inexpensive. So if something were to happen, only changing that front element of the lens is not too expensive. So why use a UV filter at all? And so I have always, in my mind, this dilemma has always been there. So some of my lenses I don't use UV filter, and some of my lenses I actually use the UV filter. But I have never, I've never come to a conclusion this way or that way. So one side you're saying it's protection, a UV filter for a lens. On the other side, it's a cheap glass. It's going to, like as Raghu said, it could introduce flares. It could introduce other artifacts. And maybe the protection that you are really looking for is only to the front element of the lens, which is not too expensive to replace. So your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thoughts are aberration is another thing that I forgot to mention. Chromatic aberration.
Absolutely.
Is very serious, meaning all colored lights do not focus correctly on the sensor, and you do get shades of blues and shades of oranges and all that. You don't want that. So my thoughts are, I don't want this protection. I do take care. But there are situations like Manjunath describes in a desert. He is in a completely different environment. So there I wouldn't know what to do. And if I'm shooting quite often in the desert, then the time that I have to send my lens for getting the front glass replaced is also time lost. So there are certain spaces where you might find that, yeah, it's good to have the protection. I might dispose of that $25 UV filter and buy another one for the next trip. But at the same time, where I am right now, I don't use the filter because it definitely is an extra element. I don't want that extra element. And also for the larger glasses, which have like 105 mm diameter and so on, right? Or 110 or 150 mm diameter lenses, the filter itself is going to be quite expensive. So, and you don't get all kinds of filters for that. So, and of course you don't put it in the front, then you choose to put filters at the back end where you have drop-in filters, and you might be having one of those. So the front glass is not protected.
Yeah. So with a drop-in filter, you don't get the protection anyway. I mean, that's the point you're saying.
Anyway.
Yeah. Can I have my say?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. I would prefer to go with a filter, but a high-end one like from Nissi or Hoya, don't go for the cheap glasses. Those filters are expensive than normal filters, but peanuts compared to the lens that you have. It again depends on what is the type of lens. So my 14-24, which is 2.8, is without a filter because you can't install a filter on that one. However, my 2470 f2.8 or other ones, all other lenses, I have filters, and those lenses are like about just under $2,000.
Yes.
Yes.
So for that, I can't risk. I would rather spend, even if it is another $50, but a very high grade glass, I would do that. In the group later on, I will share a couple of photos of what happened when I had been to Baku. When I was there in Baku last year, I went to a place which has mud volcanoes, and I became too adventurous. I wasn't happy with the photo that I had got, so I started climbing the mounts. And they're wee little mounts, nothing more than 2.5 meters, or 3 meters at the most. And you've got this muck coming out. I climbed one, fine, thank you, everything went on nice. I climbed the second one. Just when I was coming down, I realized that I had put my foot on a crust which had not totally become hard. So there was something in between the crust and the basic mount surface. And I slipped. And my camera was full of, like, forget me, the camera was full of this gooey stuff. And just because it was a Nikon D810, I could go to the nearest washroom, hose it down, literally went to the toilet. People were thinking, this guy has gone crazy, used an ablution hose and washed it down with water. Because I had a filter, I could wash the lens also. After I came back to Muscat, I gave it to my doctor, and I must have spent just in, it was working, everything was working, but I wanted it to be opened up, cleaned, and anything inside to be removed. I might have spent not more than, in Indian rupees equivalent, maybe 5 grand or even lesser for a kit, which was fairly expensive, about 3.5 US, 3.5K US dollars worth of kit. Just now, if the filter wasn't there, my lens was was totally out of question. The body was okay, it's a weatherproof body, but the lens would have gone. So in what I do, I still would go with a high-end filter. So one has to just review what type of environment one moves in and stuff like that. Thank you.
So I think the conclusion should be what? I mean, hearing Raghu's thoughts, your thoughts, Manjunath, is probably look at the environment where you're going to shoot and then decide. And if you decide to use a UV filter, then go for a high-end filter.
99.
Yes. Agreed.
For you,
And to add, this is Mukul. To add to Manjunath's experience, I had this at a family gathering. It was a 24 to 105 lens at a Thanksgiving event in Phoenix, and the kids were running around. And as I was taking the picture, one kid just bumped into me. The camera fell, and the lens, it shattered. Fortunately, it was the height UV filter on top. That's the only thing that got shattered. So I was still able to continue taking the pictures throughout the event. And when I came back, I had to get all those glass that was stuck in the screw-on filter. But at least the lens, I didn't have to even get it opened and cleaned with filter.
What I was saying is the jury is out there. I think both sides, people swing on both sides. There are cases where it is definitely warranted, and there are times where we don't want it. So if you're just moving around in safe places, yeah, you don't need it, and I would keep it out. But I do carry filters around with me. I mean, I do have my set of filters. But Kiran, I mean, I don't have a plain UV filter, Manjunath, as you're saying. I have a UV filter which has something else added, like a warm, it's called a Moose Peterson UV
okay,
filter.
okay.
And that works really nice for some landscape photographs. Yeah, so that's just me. Yeah.
I use a skylight rather than a UV because from what I understand is, during the film days, UV mattered. But in the digital world, you don't really require a UV.
Okay.
So a filter is just for protecting the lens. So I go with a skylight.
Okay.
And I think I have Nissi, I have Hoya, basically whatever is available, but from that sort of top line.
Yeah, I have mostly Hoya filters.
Yeah, they're great. They're great.
Yeah, I also have all the Hoya filters. I mean, the UV filter which I use on my 100, 400 is a Hoya, but on my 300 prime I don't use, and on 24, 105 also I don't use. But fortunately, all three have same diameters. So if I wanted, I could unscrew and put it on the other one. Yeah.
Yeah. So having same diameter is a big challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that doesn't work all the time, right?
Okay, so another question on the filters. Hey guys, Mukul again. I'm actually driving to do some fall color photography, and only now I learned that I should have brought my polarizer as well.
Yes.
But so the question then is one of convenience. You can't keep stacking these filters on top, right? Or even the ND ones. I bought them a few years ago, but ended up never using them because of the inconvenience factor. Any opinions on how best to?
No choice. You have to stack them. I mean, you have to carry them and you have to take them out, put them in. There's no choice. I don't see an easy answer.
Right. So if I left the polarizer on instead of UV and did not polarize for some pictures and polarize for others, do you see any drawback to that?
Two f-stops gone.
Okay. So increase the ISO.
Two f-stops gone. Oh, I don't want
fair enough.
Using ISO just for compensation. You lose sensitivity and you lose the quality.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So
one more
be...
disadvantage. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
No, one disadvantage of the polarizer is sometimes they are hard to remove. So you need that thing to, take them off. There's like a small, cheap
it's a little
plastic ring
to take off. It is a little hard.
Yeah, that's a problem with polarizers. Absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, so I read up just now linear polarizer and circular polarizer. Yeah, so I don't know, somebody wanted to ask something? Okay, going back, linear polarizer, I just read up. Linear polarizers were necessary in earlier times for the kind of film arrangement and backplane or whatever that was present at that time. Linear polarizers, because it used to result, and for video shooting, it used to result in complete blackout. So you don't need a linear polarizer right now, or circular polarizers are all that you need.
Thanks, Raghu. Yeah.
Circular polarizers came to compensate for the linear polarizer. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
Okay, so shall we wind down?
Yep, guys, this was very useful to understand and see the effect of the filters. They've been lying on table, but I haven't used them. So thank you. Really appreciate it.
I will always carry all the filters.
Yeah, it's like last lecture you had said, wear that jacket so you could put these things in the pocket.
Yeah.
I don't.
नहीं हम सुनो हमने exit लिया आगे जाके T junction आता है. I took a left.
Okay, sorry, let me mute myself.
Yeah, okay.
Raghu, how much how many kgs of equipment do you have to carry normally?
Oh, about 10 kilos, or maybe 6-7 kilos.
Okay.
You must be carrying more.
No, I don't. My sister, she's a total this thing. She carries about 25.
Yeah. So I mean, my tripod is a beast, and then the rest is not so heavy, but it is, yeah, if you carry all, so I don't carry all the lenses. If I carry all the lenses, then it is 10 kilos. Yeah.
She is small, and the sack which she carries around is about half her size, but she's a total enthusiast.
Yeah.
And huge amount, humongous amount of equipment she carries. Anyways, yeah.
Anyway, I cannot make out who is this speaking.
Ajit Das.
Ajit Das. Okay. Ajit Das. Yeah. So my tripod is a beast. Like I said, it's about 2.5 kilos or something. And then the lenses are 2 kilos or 1.5 kilos. And then you have 2-3 of them, and then you have a body or 2 bodies, flash. They all add up.
So sometimes when there is a bigger lens, the lens itself weighs about 3.5 to 4 kgs. This is Pradeep Joshi.
Yeah.
So I have one Sigma 120-300. The bare weight of the lens itself is about 3.7 kgs.
Yep.
So
And
actually,
it doesn't fit into my bag. So I have a 350 bag, and it doesn't fit into the bag. So the bag itself is about 1.5 kg or so. So when I put in 2 or 3 lenses with the camera body and other stuff, the bag weighs about 10 kgs. And then if you have to carry this lens, this will be an extra about 4 kgs.
Yep.
So a question on that heavy lens. If you put that on the camera as you're hiking, are you worried that the threads that hold that heavier lens would wear out sooner, or you always hold the camera by the lens while you're hiking then?
You always hold the camera by the lens.
All right, so you can't really put it on the shoulder. You always have to hold the lens then.
No, you mount it on the tripod and swing the tripod over your shoulder.
Oh, okay. All right. So then,
or use a monopod.
The habit of carrying a tripod.
Instead of tripod, try to carry a monopod. So which is like a stick, and then your 2 legs and the monopod. So you simulate a tripod with that. So with that you have to carry less, and then let the camera hang behind your kind of shoulder. And
exactly. So what Kiran is saying is what I meant by having it on your shoulder with your tripod stretched out. Instead of a tripod, a monopod is better in that cases. And then the camera hangs at your back off the neck of the tripod.
Makes sense.
Bird watching lenses with tripods are like carrying bazookas.
Yeah, they are. And so today, even for this, I was hoping to carry my heavy lens, but then it's going to be a longer hike, so we ended up carrying the lighter lens. But yeah, that's always a trade-off.
Yeah.
And by the way, you also get some tripods where one leg can be removed and converted as a monopod. So
wow.
So you can my tripod is like that. So with one investment you have both options. So you just remove the ball head, you take out a leg and put the ball head on that one leg and then convert it into a monopod.
Amazing. I have to understand that. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Okay, we wind down, right? Tarun, take over.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Yeah, sure. Wonderful. Manjunath, Raghu, thanks.
Thank
that
you.
was awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you, Raghu. Thank you, Manjunath. Bye-bye.
Thank you.